Well, welcome to our Schlock special. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. Joining me is Chris Anonymous. If you are here because you want to talk about the 1978 slasher classic Halloween, then you're in the right place because that is the movie we are talking about today. It is a movie that is infamous. It is not the first slasher movie, but I think it definitely solidified the genre.
For sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Both
Yeah.
show.
So, Chris, I have a question for you.
Okay.
You're all the way in Nebraska. It is October. It is currently October 30th. Not quite Halloween yet. What color are the leaves there?
They are yellow and orange and red and brown and on the ground.
So not green.
Maybe one or two stragglers.
You don't have trees that are full of bright green leaves with some brown leaves on the ground.
No, I don't. But they are in Halloween.
They are in Hollywood.
Yeah, in Haddonfield, it is eternally spring.
Yeah, apparently they filmed this movie during spring, and they just bought some fake leaves and spray painted them brown and yellow and whatnot, and they had to wrangle them in between shots and scenes. And so I would have loved to have seen that, people just trying to gather up these leaves.
Leaf wrangling, yeah.
Yeah, leaf wrangler.
Now, 2 weeks ago, there was still a lot of green. It was probably about 50-50. So
yeah, that's true. It just snowed here in Colorado, and I think up until then it was still getting up to like 80 degrees. The Midwest is crazy, man.
Right.
So
easy.
So the fall months are finally here. They're upon us. Tomorrow is Halloween. A lot of people watching this are probably going to be seeing it on Halloween. So this is our special, man. And so I want to do something special, and I want to wrangle in some of the audience as they come in. And so I want to play a little game. If that's all right with you.
Yeah.
So hold on. Whoa. I want to give some background on this real quick. This is something.
I thought you were about to saw me. I thought there was like
I'm gonna
have like a mask on and like I want to play a little game with you, Chris. And I'm like, ugh.
You're gonna wake up in a dingy bathroom somewhere,
right?
And have to dig a key out of someone.
So my usual Saturday night.
Ugh. So this game, I saw this at work, and it's emojis, as you may have seen. The are supposed to, they don't spell out a movie, they just like indicate a movie, a kind of Halloweeny type fun movie.
Okay.
And so I felt really, really stupid when I looked at these. I got most of them, but there's one I definitely didn't get. And I was like, I got to show these to Chris and see if he can get them. Because if he doesn't get them, then I won't feel as dumb.
It's win-win. If I don't get them, you don't feel as dumb. And if I do get them, well, I win a prize. What do I get?
Man, you're going to know after the show. It's going to be a Halloween special, I can tell you that.
Well, you're going to be digging a key out.
Out of somewhere. All right, I believe this is the easiest one.
Okay.
Let's get up these little emojis here first. So we have a ghost. We have 4 scientists of varying melatonin.
Okay.
I don't know what those words are, but I thought this one was the easiest.
And so are we waiting to see if someone watching comments?
Well,
give you 5 seconds.
Let's. I want to hear you work through it a little bit.
Okay.
Ghost.
Well, I see there
4 scientists.
Yeah, I see a ghost, and then I see 4 people who I think are representational of some busters. So I'm going to guess Ghostbusters.
Wah, 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 wah. Yep, that's it. It is the Ghostbusters. I thought I did have to laugh with the last Ghostbuster because Winston, I don't think he's a scientist, is he? Wasn't he just a guy that wanted to help bust ghosts?
Were all the other scientists? I knew a couple of them were.
They were like, they all had their doctorates, I think.
Okay. All right.
Some type of scientist. So, all right. So easy one. Let's move on to the next one. All right. So what we got here is we got an emoji of a ghost, a castle, and a dark-haired girl. What are you thinking? What sort of thoughts are popping up in this one?
Well, the castle's throwing me off. So
it does. The castle does throw a wrench in it, but I think once you get it, it makes sense.
Okay. I think I'm wrong, but I'm gonna go with the House on Haunted Hill.
And nope.
Okay.
Nope. That is a very good guess though, because I thought looking at the castle, I mean it could be any number of movies. The movie is Casper.
Yep. And I see it
movie.
now.
See that girl is what's her name? Christina Ricci.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So as everyone can see, this isn't rigged. Chris hasn't seen these before.
No.
He doesn't. So all right. So moving on to the third hardest. All right. So the emojis we got here, we got a guy, we got an emoji man. We got a building with an H on it. We got 2 girls, ghost, and an axe. And I will say that this one I did change from what I originally saw. Okay. The original thing at the end wasn't an axe; it was a knife. And I felt that the axe was more apropos.
Yes, it is. So it took me a second. So the H could be hospital, could be house. I'm thinking it's hotel, and I'm thinking those 2 girls next to that ghost would say, "Come play with us." This is the Shinnin.
And I'm thinking you're right. That's correct. The Shinning. The Shining. Exactly.
No, the Shinnin. We don't want to get sued.
Are there knives in The Shining? The mom, she has a knife, doesn't she?
I'm sure there are knives, yeah, but the axe is more iconic.
The axe is way better. All righty. Last and final one. This is the one that stumped me. And I feel very stupid for not knowing what it was and not getting it. It is, we have a plus sign. We have the weird like picture of the sun, that emoji. We have a man, woman, and children. And then we have, so I changed these. Originally, they were like the clap emojis, 2 clap emojis. They actually, now that I'm looking at it, it looks more like the money, like give me money emoji, but that is not what it is. I'm not going to say out loud what it is because I think it'll make it very easy to get if I say what I think they are.
They look like someone about to snap their fingers. But
that would be a interpretation. Yes.
Yeah. Wow, this is kind of hard. I keep focusing on the picture of the sunrise, which would be dawn. So I'm just going to throw out Dawn of the Dead. I don't think I'm right, but I'm going out with Dawn of the Dead.
Not Dawn of the Dead. I'm going to give you one more chance here. It is not Dawn of the Dead, and I think that the key in this is that picture of the sun. But it is a little bit of a head scratcher.
So the other thing I'm thinking with sun would be like vampires.
Good guess.
Sunlight.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. What do you think the picture is depicting?
A sunrise. I guess it could be a sunset too.
Oh, okay. Sunrise, sunset. At what point in the day?
From dusk till dawn?
Nope. Nope. All right. I'm going to give it to you. And before we put the thing up, let me just say it.
Okay.
Plus sign.
Yep.
Add morning. When's the morning? And the AM. Add AM. Family. Snap.
Adam's family. Wow.
The Addams family. Snap. Snap. Right.
Wow.
That was the hardest one. It took me a long time, and once I figured it out,
family. Yeah.
Actually, what am I saying? I didn't figure it out. I had to see the answer revealed to me.
Wow. Okay.
So, all right. Yeah. So that's our fun little Halloween special there for you. Let's get into some more meat of the real Halloween, where we first get introduced to Laurie Strode and the Shape and Dr. Loomis. So this movie, as I said, it came out in 1978. It costs, I see some differing figures, but it's somewhere around $300,000 to $325,000 to create. So it's definitely a low budget film. It made somewhere between $47 to $70 million, making it one of the most successful low budget films of all time. That is a huge return.
Yeah, that's crazy
on investment, and the multiple sequels that it's created. I mean, that money is still
so many sequels.
Yeah. So the way we do this show is we like to talk about the good, the bad, and the schlock. What we like, what we don't like, and sort of the big ideas of the movie, the things that stuck out to us. And this movie, it's been talked to death. I don't know if there's anything new to really say about it, even trivia wise, but we got some ideas, and we just enjoy doing this stuff. So if you are watching, please jump into the comments and tell us what your thoughts are, and maybe we'll put them up here. But first, before we get into that, we like to talk about the web of schlock. Who are these people that are in this movie and created it? Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this is just schlock and or horror movie royalty right here. I mean, so Jamie Lee Curtis, she was in, I think, 7 Halloweens: Halloween 2, H2O, Resurrection, and then the new trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
She was also in Terror Train, Road Games, The Fog, Prom Night. I mean, this is a scream queen, and this is one of the few scream queens that went on to have, you know, a huge Hollywood career. True Lies, Freaky Friday, Fish Called Wanda. I mean, just decade-long great career. But she has those roots as a scream queen, and it's cool that she came back to it with that last trilogy. Donald Pleasence, Loomis, another great actor. He was in Prince of Darkness, Escape from New York. We saw him on the show in Phenomena. He was in a Bond movie, You Only Live Twice, and he was also in 5 Halloweens: Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, and Halloween 6.
Oh, so, wow.
Except for, and Jamie Lee Curtis, actually, she has a voice over in Halloween 3. So if you count that, between the two of them, except for the Rob Zombie ones, they are in every single Halloween. One of them is, if not both, which is kind of cool. Then we have Nick Castle, who played the Shape. He also played the Shape in the remake of Halloween and Halloween Kills, and then he had a cameo in Halloween Ends. But he was a writer-director on his own. He directed The Last Starfighter, Dennis the Menace, Major Payne. He was a writer on Escape from New York. He has screen story for Hook, just all over the board, just different stuff.
And he was the beach ball alien in Dark Star.
Yep.
So he's been on the show.
Yeah, I mean, they go way back. Yep. And then, the co-writer with Carpenter's Deborah Hill co-wrote this and The Fog and produced a lot of Carpenter work. And then John Carpenter himself. I mean, talk about just schlock and great horror movies and great sci-fi movies, and a real kind of DIY sort of director who just really left a mark on cinema that I don't think we would have a show really without people like him. I mean, he's
Yeah.
not the only one, but he's definitely up there. So it's just a treat watching all these people.
Absolutely. Yeah, great cast, great crew. Well, let's get into it. I'm really excited to get into the schlock, so kind of maybe streamline the good and bad a little bit. You had it last week. I'll take it this week. The good in this movie, we've talked about this before with things like Carrie. Some of these movies are just cultural artifacts, and so they're hard to look at in kind of a good, bad way, but I'll toss some things out. I mentioned it earlier. The budget, I think it's phenomenal when people can do a lot with very little. The last time I watched this movie was probably close to 20 years ago. And this time it really stuck with me how they were able to get so much out of basically nothing. I mean, they only have a few locations. A majority of the movie, it seems like it feels like the girls walking home from school, like that takes up a big part of the runtime. And then after that, they basically just kind of go back and forth between these two houses.
Yeah.
Very
limited location, but it doesn't feel small. It feels like it's in a small town.
Right. Exactly. I know that you are going to say the score, the music in this, so I'll just leave that there. Very iconic music. I like that it's a simple story. It gets into it. It plays it. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and it gets out. Also, I'll throw in there that it's not very gory, and they did that on purpose. One, because of the budget. Two, because I think one of the producers was he did a lot of radio plays, and so he thought it was more scary to not see something, right? Your imagination is scarier than actually seeing something. And that, like, maybe getting to it later, but comparing it with the new Halloween trilogy and where they took the gore, I just think it's really interesting in ways that they chose to homage and to depart from the original Halloween, not a very bloody movie. And yeah, that's kind of it. I've already talked about the location. So what are your goods, Chris?
Again, it's that thing you talked about where it's an artifact. Almost everything is good. But the music, the score, what Carpenter did, that theme is so iconic. And it's not just that theme, it's the rest. He plays it so well. It's understated in places, but then when it comes in really heavy at just the right moments, like they did a really good job with the music. And along those lines, I think they did a really good job with the pacing. Like in the hands of a lesser director, I think this movie could have really dragged on, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, you said it's a simple story and not a lot happens, and we don't really get a lot of kills until arguably Act 3, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel, you're never left wanting. It always feels like it's moving toward that inevitable climax where they're going to run into each other.
Yeah.
And so I really love the pacing of the movie. I love that a lot of it is off stage. Yeah, it's just the directing, the shots, what they could do on that budget. It's really cool. It felt lived in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's move into bad. And so we can hurry up and get to the schlock. Bad. Really, I don't have a whole lot of bad for this, but so I'm just trying to pick out some things that I thought were more subjectively weird to me. I thought that there were weird character choices in this, that the characters did some things that I didn't think made a lot of sense. Like the sheriff, he is entertaining Loomis that there is this madman potentially prowling the town who is pure evil, and he never tells his daughter to come home and lock all the doors.
Right.
He doesn't go get her. He's the person with the knowledge. And then Loomis, he hangs outside of Michael's house for most of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And the car that the car that Michael stole, is just sitting down the block. Like he was there all night and he wasn't looking around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are like holes like that. I think throughout the movie that you could nitpick into. Let's see, Dr. Loomis. Why was he there in the movie? Donald Pleasence, he had a problem with the character. He didn't originally want to do it. He did it because I think one of his children really liked Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah.
So he took the role and he's like, I don't really know why this character is in this movie. And I have to kind of agree. He's there only basically to tell us that Michael is evil and that we need to be afraid of him.
Right. And something to cut away to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's not just the girls walking home the entire time. But yeah, he's just so cryptic with what he tells everyone. It's like, well, no wonder no one listens to you, because you're saying like crazy stuff. Why don't you tell the sheriff, hey, we have this escaped mental patient he's a sociopath, a schizophrenic sociopath that like has murdered people before.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's coming home to murder again. Yeah. Very easy.
Yeah. Let's see. Third, not really bad. I just thought it was interesting that I don't think that they wrote out a lot of this script. This is just speculation, but there are times where it feels like the dialogue is very improvised. Like there's this weird filler dialogue. You'll see like a character is talking and then the camera pans away and the character keeps talking. But if you listen to what they're saying or you read the captions like I do, it's just like really nonsense stuff. It's like when Laurie forgets her book and her friend is like, oh, well, I always forget my book, my chemistry book, my French book, my blah, blah, blah. Like she just keeps naming off books like no one would do. But it's just so that the camera can pan away and look to see if Michael's watching, and then it pans back and then she finishes her dialogue and then it like becomes relevant again. And I just saw a lot of different portions like that throughout the movie. And I was like, I wonder if they just told them to vamp, just make stuff up.
Yeah, that's a big possibility. Yeah.
And the last bad that I have, there's just some odd timing in the movie. When Michael is following them in the car, it's daytime, and then all of a sudden it's nighttime. I know that you got to do that to get movies moving along, but I thought it was really funny in the very beginning when we have the POV from little Michael, and he watches. Is it supposed to be his sister, or is that his babysitter?
No, that's his sister.
Okay, do they say that?
I can't remember. Sister? I think they say it in this movie, but if not, they say it in another one.
So someone correct me. I'm interested in this movie specifically, not if they've said it in the sequels at all.
I'm pretty sure they say it in this movie, but I can't remember.
Well, he watches her and the boyfriend go upstairs. He circles around, gets the knife, and then goes to the stairs. The boyfriend is coming down, putting his shirt back on. He's like, well, I got to go home. That's like the quickest quickie I've ever heard of. I mean, what? I don't know what was going on up there.
Oh, I think the boyfriend was shy. Well,
he's like, oh, that never happens. I got to go.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
So
I just got this weird feeling that you're about to get murdered. I'm going to go.
Yeah, I got to get out of here. Where's that kid? Creeps me out. What bads do you have?
Well, I only have one that I wrote down, and it's character motivations. So
okay,
it's a very much similar to what you were talking about with Loomis and some of the other characters. The thing I want to bring up is why does Loomis know that he's pure evil? He's being so esoteric about it. Like, he's pure evil. He's pure evil. But the only thing he ever gives us is that he stared at a wall with a blank stare for 15 years.
Yeah.
Or for 8 years. And I'm like, you can know he's really disturbed and not healthy, but like,
how do you get pure evil?
How do you get pure evil and you have a gun, you're ready to kill him? Why didn't you just inject him with something when you were at the hospital if you're this okay with not capturing him? If you're this okay with like, nope, he's pure evil, he's got to be put down. Like, I wish they would have had some kind of just a slight bit more of explanation on why he was pure evil. Like, I would like a prequel of Michael Myers, the teenage years, where he like killed half of the insane asylum.
Right. Well,
right? Because then it would be like, oh, okay, yeah. This guy's very dangerous. I get it.
Well, and unless you have any other bads, let's move into Schlock, because I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit.
I got one more. Okay. It's in the same vein, but we'll wrap it up and then we'll talk about that. It's the Laurie keeps saying the boogeyman, right? And then she won't believe Tommy when he sees the boogeyman. And I'm like, whoa. You're upset that no one's believing you, that this creepy guy is appearing on Halloween around town. And your first instinct when Tommy says he sees someone outside and then you look and there's no one there is to not believe him. I'm like, a little pot calling the kettle black. I'm like, I think she would have been like, did he look like this? Let's go lock the doors. Right. She might have like tried to be like, there's no such thing, but I think she would have taken a couple actions to just to be on the safe side, just like at home when she shut her window or locked her door or whatnot.
Yep, exactly. And again, that's that weird character motivation going on there.
Just little things like
character
that.
Choices.
Slightly off that I'm like, but negligible. All right, Schlock. What do we got?
Well, yeah, so we'll circle back to this. How did Loomis know that he was pure evil? I think that's something that I really enjoyed about the Rob Zombie remake, was that they explored that the early years some, like he actually added something into the mythos. You can say whatever you want about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but I did like that they just emphasize that a little bit more. Whereas here, we really don't get it. The kid at the beginning, when they pull the mask off of him, we're supposed to have this idea later that he just has these like dead black eyes. But the kid at the beginning, and this is just production stuff, but he just looks sort of dazed, right? Just like confused, rather than
like he went into a fugue state and stabbed someone, not that he's pure evil incarnate.
Yeah, and supposedly he just sat there like basically catatonic for 16 years or whatever.
Right, and then Loomis is like, he was just waiting for that signal in his head to say it was time to kill again. I'm like, how do you know that? I feel like
right. So I have first I'll mention the when this movie came to TV, I guess they filmed some extra scenes for it while they were filming Halloween 2 that they could insert in TV, I think to pad the runtime, but they were scenes of Michael in the asylum. And I think I've never seen this, and I would love to see this version, because I feel like it's sort of official. I think you don't see it a lot. You only see the theatrical version because people don't like this other version of it. But to me, it fills in some
times
stuff.
When I like the TV cut better.
Yeah, well, I think in it, I think Michael does kill someone while he's in the asylum. Like he busts out some glass and like kills a nurse or something.
That's all I'd need.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like he's just merciless.
Even if Loomis would have said that in his big speech of like, well, what's so bad about this guy?
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's injured X amount of people or whatever. But so I have a theory here for this version of the film, that I think the asylum that he's in, it must be minimum security. So I don't think anybody else believes Loomis, right? No one takes him serious, probably because he's so weirdly cryptic, right? People just think the doctor is also crazy. But from the very beginning, driving the nurse, he asked her if she's driven any like high security risks or anything like that, and she said no, only minimal security. They get to the asylum, and the nurse is like, oh, do they usually let them wander around?
Isn't that such a cool image?
Yeah, it would be totally scary. It reminds me of Ice Cream Man when they
it sets the tone for the movie so well. You're like, oh, this is not good,
right? But apparently, this isn't a place, with barbed wire fences, razor wire fences. There aren't security guards around to start shooting non-lethal pellets at people or whatever. That maybe just if the door gets unlocked, they wander out. So I think it's a minimum security prison. Michael gets out, he steals the car, and I know a lot of people have had a problem with, hey, if he's been in there for 16 years, how did he learn how to drive? And Loomis answers this because the other doctor says, well, he doesn't even know how to drive. He says, well, he was doing very well last night. Maybe someone gave him lessons.
That was good enough explanation for me.
And if it's a minimum security prison,
it's a high chance.
Maybe someone did give him lessons. They're like, hey, Michael, watch, this is the stick shift, and this is how you do this. And
well, there's something about him driving so much in this film. I forgot how much he drives.
Yeah.
Right. And I really like that in a slasher serial killer, because a lot of times in slasher films and even in later ones of this, they come off as very stupid, except for being able to kill. Like, they can't do normal things that we do. They walk everywhere and they're this unstoppable force. And part of that's cool, but there's something about him being able to do things like use the phone and drive and go these different places that is creepy in a very different way. And I thought in some ways more effective than just this guy who can walk at the speed of cars.
Yeah.
In other slasher films.
Well, I watched a video essay on this, and I can't remember who did it, but they pointed out that in this film, unlike all of the films to follow, Michael is very smart. He's setting up traps. He's like baiting people into things, whereas in the other movies, they really lean into that force of nature. He just walks straight forward and kills, right? And in Halloween Kills, he leaves Laurie's house and he just kills his way to get back to his house.
To be fair, it is called Halloween Kills.
But I mean, definitely so. But those movies, they were supposed to be a continuation of, like, the true continuation of the original Halloween movie. But the motivation is like just so different because in this, he goes home, but he immediately leaves home as soon as he sees Laurie.
Yeah. Well, because he sees Laurie put the key on his home. He's watching her from the get-go. Like she crossed over into his world.
Yeah, but he's willing to leave his house and
totally.
I don't know. Rewatching this really gave me, like, in some ways some new appreciation for the newer movies, and in some way made me like dislike them more because I felt like some things were so different.
Yeah, Halloween feels more in common with something like Psycho or with just thrillers than it does with horror movies. And I think that's a very effective thing. And I think horror movies in general have gotten away from that kind of style and that kind of pacing and the kind of the B-story investigation. And it felt very much like a thriller that just had a horror monster as the villain. This was had more in common with like a Hannibal Lecter than it does with like a Freddy Krueger or a Jason.
That's interesting. More in common with a Hannibal Lecter than a Jason.
Yeah, in my book, that's how I feel. Yeah, especially rewatching it. So it'd been several years since I'd seen it, and I just that very. I mean, you could call this a thriller, and if it wouldn't have done as well as it did and kind of springboard the horror genre, you might just call it a thriller.
Right. If it didn't, I say solidify that slasher genre.
Yeah, if it hadn't done as well as it did and solidify that slasher genre, I think people would look back on this movie as a horror adjacent thriller.
Yeah. Well, I think, sorry, my wheels are turning in my head here, because I think it's interesting that you say Hannibal Lecter, because Hannibal Lecter is a force of personality, right? Mm-hmm. It has to be, I mean, really, to get Hannibal Lecter, you have to have a charismatic actor. I mean, obviously Anthony Hopkins, but also was it Mads Mikkelsen, who mm-hmm. played in the TV series, another great actor. But in Halloween, Michael doesn't talk. He was played by several different people. Nick Castle, I think I think he played him the most during the show, but I think even John Carpenter was in the suit at some point in time, and that leads me to some potential theories about this movie. But I want to pick your brain first.
Okay.
People have picked this movie apart, trying to find the themes in it and what's it about. What do you think the overarching theme or underlying themes are in this movie?
I mean, I think the movie tells you in the school scene. I think it's the unstoppable nature of fate. I think that he is representational of an incarnation of fate, and what's going to happen is going to happen. And again, that's why when they shoot him at the end and then they look again, he's gone. You can't stop him. So in that mm-hmm. poetry reading where she was talking about, I think that is one of the main themes.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I saw a thing that pointed out the presence of trains in this movie. We only get one shot of a train.
Okay.
When Loomis finds the I think, well, he didn't steal the vehicle. It's where he got the jumpsuit.
Oh yeah,
it's outside that truck, and the train goes by, and it's very loud. And then throughout the movie, I don't know if it's diegetic or non-diegetic, meaning if the sound is actually produced in the world of the movie, or if it's part of the score. Mm-hmm. It's just for us audience. But we hear like train sounds, like a very ding, 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 ding. It sounds like a train crossing.
Okay.
And so there's this idea that, a train, it's on its track, it goes straight forward, it gets to its final destination, and there's essentially nothing that can stop it. You probably know better than me, but yeah,
right.
The train goes from here to there.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea of the unstoppable nature of fate. And I think that's, as we're talking about this, I'm seeing the B story with Loomis, because that where he finds the truck and he sees where he's stolen the garage guy's jumpsuit. Mm-hmm. He turns away, and then we pan over and we see the dead body. Loomis mm-hmm. never sees that body. And then when Loomis is talking to the chief right after the hardware store's robbed, and that's where Michael Myers gets rope and his mask and knives, right? Mm-hmm. He and one of the coolest shots of the movie, Michael Myers drives behind Loomis as Loomis is facing the camera talking to the chief.
Yeah.
So again, it's that idea of missing him. And then he's at his house waiting. He's missing that car. It's 3 blocks away. He misses it. And then, so Loomis's whole theme is knowing that something bad is going to happen, but not knowing when, not knowing how, and not being able to do anything about it. Always missing the mark. Like, just because he knows, it's very Greek tragedy, very Oedipus. Like, just because he knows this thing is going to happen, he's still helpless to do anything about it. And then when he's finally able to do something about it and he shoots him out the window, you think, okay, finally he's defeated fate. He's he's finally saw the lights, made the connection, right? And then he goes to look and he's gone. So I think the whole B story is this thing of like, he is the most informed character and he's also the most helpless character, which is very interesting. And it talks the whole idea of, can you do anything with fate? Can you stop what's going to happen? Again, there's that whole idea of the train, right? It's moving in a straight line from point A to point B, again, like a shark, like so many things in horror movies.
Well, and they stop it. They say fate is an element, like fire, wind, water, and I think this is where the idea that things like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, the people have compared them to forces of nature, right? They're hurricanes that go through, right? They don't care about anybody, you know. They're not merciful, they're not hateful, really. They just come in and destroy. And fate is a similar element. It can just come in and destroy without mercy or hate or fear or whatever. So yeah, I think that is a perfectly fine explanation for the movie. I gravitated towards a different section of the movie. Maybe we can find a way to marry these in a way.
Yeah.
But
what you got?
So something that stuck out to me was when Loomis went to the cemetery, and the cemetery keeper, he says, yeah, there's something like this in every town. Every town has a story. There is this family, the blah, 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 blah. And I think that they mention it, something like that, 2 or 3 more times in the movie, that they allude to this, like the sheriff, he doesn't want the town to know that there is this killer on the loose because they'll see him on every corner. Which again is very different from Evil Dies Tonight and Halloween 2, where everyone does see the evil on every corner. But this idea that it's around, like this happens everywhere. It can happen anywhere. And to me, it made the movie start taking on more of a persona of like The Strangers, movie that really scared a lot of people. This idea that these killers come to this house and kill everyone inside, and they ask them, you know, why are you doing this? And they say, because you were home, right? It's just that fear that this could happen anywhere, anytime. And Michael Myers, so kind of opposite of Hannibal Lecter, Michael Myers isn't the important part. His persona isn't important, right? He's never even called Michael Myers. He's called Michael. We see that it's the Myers family. We put it together, Michael Myers. In the movie, he's referred to as the Boogeyman. In the credits, he's referred to as the Shape. And through production, he's played by several different people because the look of him doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter who's behind the mask, because it could literally be anyone, because it could happen anywhere.
Right.
So I don't know, like, is that combinable?
Well, yeah, I was thinking about, as I was watching this, like, why, the question I kept asking is like, why is this still so effective?
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are brilliant movies out there that hold up to 100 watches and for years and years and years. But then there are movies that just get really dated, or like you can still like them, but you see problems. And I'm like, this is still really effective. This is still, and again, I don't think he's anything like Hannibal Lecter on the surface. Like, I think they're polar opposites with that. But someone who escapes from a mental hospital and attacks people, someone who's a cannibal and attacks people, those are not your everyday thing, but they're believable, right? They can happen. They do happen. Whereas like something like Jason or Freddy Krueger, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so far with Michael Myers, he's not a Jason, right? He's not a undead
not
killer.
Yet.
Not
he becomes one. Yeah. he definitely becomes Jason like with the sequels, but right now he's unstoppable, but he also feels very human. Like Laurie hurts him, right?
Mhm.
I just finished watching Prom Night last week, another
Oh, yeah.
slasher with Jamie Lee
Jamie Lee
Curtis.
Curtis in it, yeah.
And that was really interesting because even more than this, they beat the crap out of the main bad guy. Like there's lots of times when he like gets hurt or almost knocked out, or like it's really interesting to see the weaker side, because it gives you that glimmer of hope, and then that glimmer of
Right.
hope is dashed. And I've talked about, how in horror movies I need that hope for it to be
Mhm.
really effective. And I think on a subtle scene by scene way, being able to hurt your villain and then seeing them come back even stronger is much scarier than just having bullets bounce off them all the time.
Right.
Right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, if only, like, she wounds him and then she's like taking a breath and she's at the door, and then we get that iconic shot of him just sitting up, like sitting straight up
Mhm.
and like looking at her, and like that's one of the creepiest, best moments in any horror movie ever. And it's so effective. And I think partially is because we're like, did she do it? And because we've been led to believe that he is that we can wound him, we can hurt him until the very end when we see him disappear after getting shot a bunch.
Mhm.
But before that, there's that whole idea. So it's that everyman, which I think is what you're talking about, which makes it more effective. Like these streets look like any street in my town or your town.
Mhm.
And these teenagers, I think some of their little strange language and non sequitur, I think some of that is silly, but I think some of it is how different cliques and teenagers talk
Yeah.
throughout the years, right? And I think part of that makes it more believable, of like, these are just everyday kids doing their stuff, doing their thing, and this is an everyman killer, and this is an every town USA, and so it can happen to you, and that makes it much more frightening. So I think, yeah.
Right. And you can't stop it.
And you can't stop. Again, that's the whole idea of, you don't realize you can't stop it until the end of this movie.
Mhm.
Whereas in a lot of horror movies, from the beginning that you can't stop it, and it becomes less effective and less frightening.
Well, let me throw this in here too with the character of Michael Myers. And we've talked about how we don't see anything really of him at the asylum. I totally forgot that this movie, it doesn't really show the breakout of the asylum. Like all of that happens off screen, leading me to believe that, well, that type of character development that Rob Zombie does, like that's really not important for this character. Like we don't need to understand.
No, you don't need to understand it. I just wish, if you're going to have a character like Loomis, that you would either err even on less explanations, or do what Zombie did and give us more.
Yeah, they kind of they kind of fight against each other, those two ideas. That this guy this character who wants you to be really invested in like the character of the villain, and then a movie that the way it's put together, that it's cut together, tells us no, you don't really need to care about that. The person's not even the same height throughout the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So it's interesting how that works. Another interesting, fun thing, this is probably one of the schlockiest things that I loved and I completely forgot, is that the movie they're watching is The Thing from Another World.
Yeah.
Which is, he remade as The Thing, a dozen years, or so, like 6 years later.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah, it's such a fun, like, this guy loves this movie, and then knowing that he went on to make it, and it's one of his best movies ever, is just so cool.
Have you ever seen the original?
No, I've never seen the original. I've always wanted to, but I think it's on Tubi, so we might have to do that sometime.
We might have to do like a thing marathon.
Yeah. No, I was talking to this guy, and the sequel, the remake of The Thing, gets a lot of flack. I thought it was not too bad, but it's technically a prequel. And he was saying that if you watch it and then watch The Thing, it really works, because It's not as good as The Thing, and it never will be, but it's a pretty good prequel. And so you watch that first and you're enjoying it, and then you get the brilliance that is The Thing.
Yeah. It's Terminator 2 to Terminator.
Right. But if you watch it in the correct order, then it just feels like one big thing. But The Thing, Carpenter's The Thing, is so much better, but you get that as the last thing you watch. So it leaves a really, really nice taste in your mouth, a very fine wine.
Yeah. Thing-a-thon. It's going to be coming. So just a few last things that I have. Why do you think Michael follows Laurie? You mentioned that she goes to the house, drops the key off, and enters his world. I don't know. I thought that was interesting, and maybe that plays in with the theme of fate.
I think the idea of tempting fate, because Tommy is saying you don't go up to that house. Don't go up to the house. Every kid,
which again is something every town has. There's a place that you don't go.
Yeah, don't go there. And so he's telling her the unwritten rules of the movie and the universe and everything. Mm-hmm. You don't go there. Every kid knows not to go there. And she's like, I can do that. I can do what I want. See, I'm doing it. And puts the key under there. So she is tempting fate. It's that simple. She's tempting fate, and fate's like, ooh, who's this?
It's kind of like the Bloody Mary gambit, right? Like everyone knows that it's bullshit, but no one does it.
Right. Exactly.
Just in case, just in case.
Yep. It's exactly like that. And, I think that there's probably some connection with, he was at the place where he killed his sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees another young woman who is close to her age when he killed her. So,
see, I thought it was interesting that, again, someone's going to have to correct me for sure. But I think that, well, no, I'm just going to say it. At the beginning, that was his babysitter. Whether it was his sister or not, she, I think, was supposed to be babysitting him, right? They were home alone. The parents were gone. And so Michael sees Laurie with a kid, with Tommy,
who is close to his age.
It's the same sort of dynamic.
Yep.
And so that's that evil trigger that Loomis is talking about, like okay, now it's time. And it culminates in him putting his is that his mother's grave? On the bed,
her tombstone on the bed with Annie. I believe that was the first kill.
Yeah, and that adds a whole other layer of WTF. Like, what is really happening here?
What a great iconic image. But that's like, and then he stuffed all the other bodies in there as if Laurie were going to find them. I don't.
Fate, I guess, right? Yeah. It's all culminating into one spot. But yeah, so I guess unless you have any other schlock that you want to talk about, I will sort of end on this idea, this last thought.
No, it's all you. Take it away.
Do you think, how do I word this without being any type of insulting? Do you think that they knew what they were doing when they were writing this, or do you think they were throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, and let the critics figure it out later?
Both. I think a little bit of each.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they knew what they didn't want, and they had some idea what they did want. Mm-hmm. And I think they were, like any low budget film, they were figuring it out as they went. I mean, the whole idea of the mask is just a spray painted William Shatner. Like, that's so cool. But just little things like that left to, like, well, this is what we got. So,
right.
And the locations and, the whole idea of the camera as a voyeur, that was very prominent in this, very effective. Mm-hmm. I think it was a bit of both. I think they knew what they were doing, but I also think that they discovered and kind of winged it in different ways, and came up with something that just holds up more than most horror movies I've watched.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, last question of the night. This one's very important. Chris, whenever you spill something on yourself, do you completely and immediately fully disrobe?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, every time. Yeah,
I thought that was very interesting.
Doesn't matter where I'm at, and then I'll go find the farthest away washing machine I possibly can find,
and then walk around on the street with just
just whatever clothes I can find. I don't care who these are. I'll put them on loose, tight.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that makes not a lot of sense. I mean, I think she would try and go and find some clothes first, like run upstairs to the mom's closet and get like a sweater or maybe a skirt or some jeans or, I mean, it was
I just had to pause and laugh on that part. She spills a little bit of butter and she's like, oh, damn. And then.
Yeah, I think a lot of horror movies use that shtick later on just to disrobe their actors and actresses.
Yeah, it was very clear what was going on.
Yeah, like, okay.
So,
fine.
All right. I think that's all the time that we have for tonight. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to our Schlockoween special. We are almost at 100 subscribers. So please, if you're watching this, if you've made it this far, go ahead and click subscribe. Tell us what you think about it. If you are listening to this somewhere, please go ahead and leave a rating so that we know that you're enjoying what is going on.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going over to Hulu and we are checking out Slaughterhouse.
Slaughterhouse.
I believe it's a sloth in a sorority house. I don't know. We'll see. It looks weird, so we're going to jump on it. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We've been compelled by Schlock. Everybody, have a happy Halloween, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.